Kirk Duckwall here with the fourth video in our Be the Smartest Seller in the Neighborhood series. In this one, we're going to talk about the best way to evaluate your house's value as well as the best pricing strategies for your property. All right, in the series so far, we've covered the best time of year to list, not only time of year, but also day of the week and times to avoid. Then we got into preparing your house for sale. Last video, we covered decluttering, staging, and photography and the impacts that those have. And now it's time to dive in to the evaluation and pricing. All right, so how do you figure out your home's value? A lot of people will look at the Zillow's estimate or maybe look at county tax records. I've seen people hire an appraiser before or do a market analysis. Well, the best is to do a market analysis, but you want to make sure you're truly looking at comparable properties. A lot of times somebody will reach out to me and say, oh, my neighbor's house sold for this, and I think my home is right around that. Well, just because it's next to you doesn't mean that it has a similar value. It's kind of like cars on a car lot. You can have cars next to each other. It doesn't mean they're going to be the same price point. A pickup truck's going to sell for something different than a sedan a lot of times. So what we want to look at is to make sure it's the similar layout, size, and condition, right? And neighborhood. That's very, very important. Then try to find preferably 3, 4, or 5 of those properties that check those boxes, and then we're narrowing in on that accurate range. Because you just change one thing, especially like that layout, a one-story versus a split level versus a two-story, just based on that, even if everything else was the same, they're going to have a different price per square foot. So that is the best way to evaluate. The problems with the Zestimate, and this actually comes straight from Zillow's own numbers, they're accurate on off-market properties. So if you pull up your property, pull up what they estimate your value is, they're accurate within 5% of a sale price. If that home was to go active and sell, only 41.2% of the time. I mean, the weatherman has better odds than that. Accurate within 10%, 66.1% of the time. Now, its accuracy on active properties is a lot higher. Well, the reason is it puts a lot more weight into that agent's analysis of that property. Then we get to the county records. The problem there for value is that a lot of times some of those records are off, and it's old data. We want current data of what the market's doing right now. And appraised value, the issue there is that's risk assessment to the bank. Lots of properties every year sell for over appraised value, and lots of other properties will sell for under appraised value. It's just not an accurate reflection of market value out there. Now, pricing strategy. There's really 3 pricing strategies that we're going to talk about, but 2 that you're going to want to consider. And that is starting with 1, which is emotional-based pricing. That's the one we're going to avoid. And the reason you avoid emotional-based pricing is it can really have the worst impact to your sale price and time on market. Emotional-based pricing, it's not always on the high side. You know, a lot of people will think, oh yeah, a person loved their home, and they always think their house is better than others, and they price it high. Yeah, that happens a lot, but sometimes people will price it low because they know of all the little things wrong with it. You really want to price it and where things are with the market, but picking one of the 2 other strategies, which is event-based pricing. That's where you go just a bit under the market value to then drive price higher, or market-based pricing. And that's really where we see homes are selling at, not necessarily listing at. We talked about list price being a mistake. We don't want to go off of that. We want to go where they're selling, and we price within that selling range. So how do you pick? Well, the top line here is inventory, and the bottom is market activity. As the inventory is at its highest points, we can see the market activity is slowing down. So for event-based pricing, what we're looking for is that time of year where the inventory is at its lowest point. You have the least competition, but the buyer activity is skyrocketing. And that's where we go a little bit under, and then we let the market drive the price up. But then you get to the peak time of year, and then heading on down, and that's where you might want to consider the market-based pricing, because if things are slower and you have fewer buyers spread out among more properties, you may only get one offer. And if you event-based price, you might underprice it. Price point has a lot to do with this too. And time of year, we were just looking there, and that was an overall average. We can see if we're looking at like the 300 to 400 price point peaking out here in April into May, and then things slow down versus, let's say we go to $1 million properties, we can see like last year peaked in July. So price point makes a difference too when selecting which strategy you want to go with. Neighborhoods, activity levels as well, and that's why you really want to hone in on your specific property. Now let's take a look at some of the impacts that these strategies have. So first off, all these homes were sold during the same time of year. And we're going to see some people that had some mishits because they went with the wrong strategy for that time of year. So this is the time of year where event-based made the most sense. 49 homes come on the market, all sell within a day. 227.86 is what they listed at, and then 247.90 is what they sold at. We then get to the homes that went more with the market strategy at that time of year. 241.87 sold for 244.28. So still over, they still did good, but they didn't do as good. About a $4,500 difference there on the net result for within that price point. Then the person who goes, well, it can't hurt, or my home's the best, they really overshoot. 21 days market time, price 232. Now, why is it 232? Well, they actually had to do a price reduction. So they were higher originally, then came down to this 232. They sold close to that, 232.56, but not as much. 6% differential, 14%. Still sold relatively quick in the grand scheme of things. It was a faster time in our marketplace in the Twin Cities, but still overshot for that market. So hopefully you found this information valuable. Again, you really want to hone in on what is best for your property type, neighborhood, and time of year. If you ever are curious where your home's value is at or the strategy to go with, please feel free to reach out, housegeeks.com, or give me a call, 651-303-0019.